So, hi everybody. So good to see you. I hope you had a very good week of Akshobhya, right? So we'll start with a refuge and bodhicitta and Guru Yoga, and then we'll start with to hear what have happened to you with regard to Buddha Akshobhya, right? Okay. So we'll go to the traditional way to do the refuge that combines the bodhicitta and combines the Guru Yoga together. Sangye chudang tsoke choknam la jangchu badu dakni kyeptsu chi dake chinso kimpe sonam ki adorla penchi sangye chupasho. Sangye chudang tsoke choknam la jangchu badu dakni kyeptsu chi dake chinso kimpe sonam ki norla penchi sangye chupasho. Sangye chudang tsoke choknam la jangchu badu dakni kyeptsu chi dake chinso kimpe sonam ki dola penche sangye chupasho. This is the opportunity to thank all the lineage, starting from the Buddha, Padmasambhava, all amazing Buddhas till now. And for me, you can put whomever you want. Me, this is Lamalina, who brought me to this stage that I'm in right now. So I hope you can hear me. I think I owe you guys some kind of correction from what had happened last time. That was with regard to Leila's question about where do we find the grief within the mandala, right? We have very designated feelings or emotions with regard to each one of the Buddhas, but as long as we progress on searching or diving into the mandala, what we see is that there are many other emotions or feelings, and not only that, that sometimes they are correlated to one and to each other. So when we discussed the grief, that was an answer for a question. I brought up what we call in the Western psychology the grief curve, what we call, and I gave you only a few stages of that, but there are two more stages, and I want to correct myself because I don't like to give, only part of the information. So we started with the denial, as we discussed last time, which has to do with some kind of disbelief or well, that didn't happen. Oh my God, what was happening? And then comes the anger. Okay, so when we talk about this specific anger, we can find that in the mandala, as we discussed. We know this is the anger that has to do with akshobhya. But this anger also can trigger some kind of frustration, um, or helplessness, because anger also can become some kind of helplessness. It's not just, strong emotions, okay? So it was the denial and then the anger. But I forgot to mention two more very important part of the curve, okay? The one that is usually happens, not always, but most of the time is the bargaining. Okay, if I will, that will happen. Okay, let's, for example, if, as you remember, grief is not only has to do with death, it has to do with lots of job, loss of relationship, I don't know, divorce, all kind of something that has stopped, and we are grieving on that particular thing. So let's say bargaining, if I don't know, if only I would have done that, that would have happened. Or if I will pray 10 times that, this will solve the problem. Okay, so you're bargaining. With whom are you bargaining? With your mind, actually, because there is no one to bargain with, right? And then in some cases, not in all cases, we are going to the bottom of the curve, and the bottom of the curve has some kind of depression. The depression not necessarily is a clinic depression like we defined that, but it's something that has to do with a very deep sadness, okay? And some kind of fatigue. And then you can find that in other places in the mandala, this specific feeling or emotion. So the depression, as I said, it's not necessarily the clinic one, okay? And then we're starting to get back to our life. That happens when we get the acceptance, okay? So that's the full curve. Now, I want to say something that I didn't say, Lena, and this is for you, okay? Because you said that you feel something now that happens 20 years ago, right? So we think that if in the Western psychology we just, you know, describe the curve and there are stages. So we have to go through those stages and it has to do right after something happened. It's not like that. We are using the curve in order for the diagnosis. It's not necessarily something that everybody has to go through the whole stages, and everybody has to go through the stages right after something happens. It can happen, you can go back to a stage, you can go further to a stage, you can go after 20 years to a specific stage that um, you haven't been there before. So I think that the most important thing that has to do with any emotion, and specifically with grief, is that we want to know that grief is a healing process. I know that it sounds weird what I'm saying now, but in order for us to go through the stages of the curve and to go to the acceptance, because we are losing something, okay? We're losing. I mean, this is a fact. Otherwise, we wouldn't call it a grief, right? So we have to go through the stages. Whenever they're happening, even after 20 years, 30 years, it's okay. This is a healing process. So don't try to suppress that or to say, what's happening with me? Why this person, I don't know, died 20 years ago, or I have divorced 15 years ago. Why I'm grieving now on this divorce or on this death or whatever happens. Sometimes it has to do with the fact that maybe when we were young, we did an abortion. So, and as a young people, we didn't think that we are grieving on something. That's a grief, okay? It's okay to grieve. This is a healing process. So that's what I wanted to emphasize with regard to the grief curve, what we call in the Western psychology. And I also want to apologize for all of you guys. We did a lot of issues with regard to the recording. We had a glitch last time. We thought it was recorded, but it wasn't recording. But as a result of that, something so beautiful have happened in our Sangha. And when I mentioned that to the people, and that's, again, an amazing opportunity for me to say thank you to Lela, to Edith, to Dorota, to Ola, and to Sabine, and to Carl, and to all of the translator, and to Benny, who is also part of this amazing group. They're doing everything voluntarily. They're doing their best in order to serve all the Dharma people. So there was a glitch, but look what have happened. Everybody was just putting their hands into the pot. This one was doing the AI. This one was doing the trying to reduce the recording. Everybody was just putting a lot of effort in order to solve the issue that was that happened, the glitch with the recording. So I want you to look at that because I would say from the conventional point of view, an anger can arouse, right? I mean, each one of you can say, what are they? Well, they're stupid. Why don't you do that? And why they didn't do that? And they didn't see or whatever. So there is a slight anger. Why anger can arouse with regard to this issue? Because we wanted something. There was an attachment to something. Let's call it, in general, the recording, but it didn't happen. So now my tendency is to find somebody to blame. Now, who am I to blame here? The Zoom company? No, usually we don't blame a company because who is there in the company? So we are searching for a person to blame, right? Maybe this one or that one. This one didn't do that, or that one did that, whatever. And what had happened is that if you had just, let the feeling go through you, and all of a sudden, when all those advices and all the recording and everything was just put in the pot of the Vajra World WhatsApp group, it was amazing. So I hope that you had this transformation from anger to something. I had this transformation. I didn't get angry, but I said, okay, we'll work with that. Everything is okay. But when I saw all the people that were so helpful, so I felt gratitude. So gratitude is a very good emotion that we are going to discuss it now because we are going to discuss today the Ratna Sambhava, and gratitude is part of the transformation of what we want to go to. Okay, the wisdom of equanimity and equality. Now, the reason I'm referring to that is because something like that happens to us every day, even few times a day. There is something we want that doesn't happen, or there is something we want that we don't want that happen, right? We are now in the Tantra group working with emotion. We know that in order for us to work in the future to transform all those afflicted emotion into wisdoms, okay, all the five Dhyanis Buddha's wisdom, something needs to happen. And what's really needs to happen is the awareness. For example, oh, there's not going to be a recording. Stop. See what's happened to you. Be aware, be mindful to what is going on with regard to the emotion. Name it. Anger, frustration, aggression, blaming, whatever you want to call it. But put attention to the process that is going on within you when something that you want to happen doesn't happen, or something that you don't want to happen happens. Okay? Because that's what we're doing here in this specific course. We're trying to describe those emotions and their sisters and brothers, okay, not only the father and mother, as we call that, in order for us to be aware, to be mindful, because the transformation takes place only when we are aware to what is happening within our mind. Otherwise, who is the one that will enlighten us with regard to our karmic patterns, with our afflicted karmic patterns? If they are not afflicted, like for example, if we are gratitude, if this is an emotion, do you want to replace this? Do you want to transform this? No, you don't. So that's why we call that afflicted emotion, because they're afflicting our mind. They are creating our suffering, or sometimes we call it disturbed emotion. Whom they are going to disturb, even if they are in your mind as thoughts, it's disturbing your mind. That's why they call disturbing emotion or afflicted emotion, because the subject who is being afflicted or disturbed is the mind. And that's a very good opening to what we are going to discuss today, which is the Buddha Ratnasambhava. So, as you saw in the mandala, so you know in the middle we have the Vairochana, which is white. In the east, which is lower in the mandala, is Akshobhya, which is blue. And as I said, sometimes they are switched, which is perfectly okay. Remember, this is a man-made diagram. Then we have in the south, because if the east is lower, the south is on the left hand from where I'm seeing. We have the yellow Ratnasambhava. On the east, on the west, we have Amitabha, which is red. And then in the north, which is opposite to the south, we have the green Amodasiddhi. This is the mandala, again, as a man-made diagram for us, for it to make it easier for us to remember the diagram, okay? So we are talking now about the south, okay? The south is Ratnasambhava. It's the yellow and sometimes called golden Ratnasambhava, and I like better the gold rather than the yellow, because gold has something to do with abundance, with shiny, with something which is very bright and luminous. So what do we have there? Why did I say it about the gratitude? It has to do with Ratnasambhava. So Ratnasambhava works, the afflicted emotion that's related to Ratnasambhava is the main afflicted emotion is pride. And sometimes people think, oh, I'm so modest. I'm not proud at all, okay? And like Lamalina likes to say, being modest and being very humble is the other side of pride. It's still afflicted emotion because it still holds on me, me, me. I'm humble. I'm modest. Okay, so still some kind of a pride. But from the general point of view, pride, what does it mean to be proud of? We can be proud in, let's say, the usual things. Let's say that somebody is proud because he has a lot of money, or somebody is proud because he's very handsome or she is very beautiful, or somebody is proud because he has a big house or a bigger house, which is also has to do with a comparison, right? I have a house, but this house is better than this house. And one of my favorite, I call him Buddhas, although he was not declared as Buddha, but one of my favorite teachers, lamas, gurus in the Buddhist tradition is Master Shantideva. All my students through their all years knows that when I talk about Master Shantideva, I'm just melting, okay? So you just know, the love of my life is Master Shantideva. Yes, my husband is near me, and he knows that he has a competition, and the love of my life is Master Shantideva. And Master Shantideva he wrote the Bodhisattva Charya Avatara, which is the path for the Bodhisattva path. And one of the chapters, this book has 10 chapters, and one of the chapters has to do with replacing myself with others. Okay, I'm not going to go into that. That's for a specific course. One day I will love to teach the love of my life. But what happens there? That in many words, he is describing something which is very important for us to recognize. When we are entering a room, our mind automatically is sorting those who are in the room, and the sorting is going through a very specific method. The method is called comparison. Now, we are not aware on that. We have no awareness that the mind is using this quick comparison. Now, what the mind is compared to what? If I have some kind of belief systems, or sometimes we call that values, right? Belief systems or values that has to do, for example, with thinking that being rich is more important than being, I don't know, smart. So I will not be able to see somebody who is richer than myself, right? What will happen is that at that moment that I entered the room, we all were equal. But at the moment that I felt or saw or thought that somebody is more than me in some of those values, let's say money, beauty, intelligence, whatever is, I think it's important. At that moment that I have some kind of notion that this person is more than me in one of those values, I have my value is decreasing. That happens automatically. We are not aware of that. And what happens is that we cannot stay low. We don't like to be in the lower part. So what happens is that we're trying to go and do some action with regard to that. Usually the action is decreasing the other person that just gave me the feel that he is more than me in one of those values. So I will say, for example, if I will see a beautiful girl, and beauty is one of my values, that I value myself as a very beautiful woman, and I see somebody that I think that she is more beautiful than me, so what I'll do, and I say, she is so stupid. Whoop! What will happen is that on another value, I will decrease her value for me to feel better. Now, do you think that I'm just making this up? If you know yourself, you know, we call that judgment, we call that criticism, we call it all of that. But this is the mechanism, okay? On a specific value that I saw this person more than I am, I feel decreased in my value and I want to feel better. So I'm decreasing the other person's value. This is one of the reactions. The other reaction is that since I don't want to stay low, to feel decreased in my value on whatever subject I'm feeling in, so maybe I will just go away and I will have a lot of explanation and stories to myself why I'm going away, why I'm not staying in this room. Oh, this party is boring. I don't need to be here. Whoop, going away. Oh, you know what? I forgot that I left the pot on the stove, and I have to go and close that. Whoop, go away. Oh, my husband just called me and he said that he doesn't feel well, so I have to go home. Those are excuses and stories that the mind is making because we have felt decreased in our value. Pay attention to that. Because when we work with Ratna Sambhava, what happens, we don't call that pride, right? We wouldn't call decreasing in value proud. No, we wouldn't call that pride. But that's what happened because I cannot stand that somebody is better than myself in some of those values. So what I'm doing, I am going up. Going up is and going down to somebody is always a pride. Don't mislead yourself. And I'm decreasing the value of this person unconsciously. It's not that I got into the room, saw that happening, felt that, and then I said something like, oh, she's so stupid because I saw that she's so beautiful. That's not how it goes. It's unconsciously. So what I'm doing now is that I'm bringing it up because I want you to be conscious to that issue. Okay? Because if you're not, you will not be able to, oops, something happened. You will not be able to work with Ratna Sambhava. Okay? So before we'll go to the meditation, I just want to give you the sisters and brothers of the main father and mother of proud, okay? The pride, the afflicted emotion. So we have the, okay. When we are proud of something, we are also getting very obsessive with what we have. I gave you the example about the beauty. So I'll be very obsessive with my beautiness. So I'll go and do, I don't know, surgeries, and I'll put a lot of, I'll invest a lot of money in something that has to do to bring me to my youth or whatever. But it doesn't have to be only on values. It can be also on phenomena. Like, for example, if I have money, for example, or have a house, so now I'll be obsessive about this thing because this gives me a lot of pride, a lot of pride about something, right? So it's not necessarily only about characteristics, okay, with regard to the issues. So, for example, when we have people who are hoarding, I don't know if you all familiar with this issue. Hoarding is not an easy um, way of life, I would say, because people who are hoarders, they don't know that they are hoarders. Okay, usually they're deep in obsessive about something they want to keep. Okay, so for example, you can be a hoarder about your reputation. Do you know people who are obsessive about their reputation? And every time they will feel that their reputation is about to be damaged, or they will feel that somebody is, I don't know, might damage their reputation. So what they will do, it's they will be obsessive about that, and they will do whatever is necessary in order to keep their reputation, for example. Now we're talking about, I don't know, work environment or house, family environment. So we see those things that, let's say that if one of my brothers is calling me stupid, that has to do with my reputation, right? So at that moment, I will feel that my value has been decreased. So what I will do, I will try to decrease his value, right? Because he told me I'm stupid. So it has to do with protecting my reputation. We don't usually see that pride has to do with all those issues. That's why I'm mentioning that. Um, in the Dharma world, it's very obvious when you see people, for example, that are very obsessive or very proud about the Dharma place where they are. It can be, oh, I have received all those empowerments. Oh, I received this empowerment from this teacher and this teacher, and he's my teacher, and she's my teacher. So it's not necessarily just, the convenient life. It can be also the spiritual life. So it can be with, let's say, material support. Oh, I have this beautiful statue of Vajrayogini. Okay, so I'm starting to collect or hoard a lot of empowerments, a lot of status, a lot of tankas. So if you're doing that and you know that you're doing that for yourself as part of your spiritual path, that's great. But what happens if you're doing that as part of the hoarding because that gives you a lot of proud? Okay. What about power? Do you think that hoarding or collecting power is also has to do with pride. Think about it. If you know people that are, I don't know, running after power, or they are obsessing about the power that they want to gain, what happens to them when they're feeling that somebody is threatening their power, or threatening their reputation, or threat their pride? So as you can see, pride is not, very strict pride, okay? It has to do with a lot of brothers and sisters of the main afflicted emotion. And then what happened is many times we are referring to Ratna as the afflicted emotion, not only pride, but also stinginess. So because the pride is bringing the stinginess out, because what is stinginess? I want to keep what I have, right? I don't want anybody to take it from me. And that brings something that we call, feeling of lack of something. Normally, always laugh about that when she speaks about Rata Sambhava and the afflicted emotion of the stinginess or the lack. So she said, people who are having the feeling that something is missing in their life, his part of Ratnasambhava. And she always laughed and she said, I always feel that I don't have enough surface area. The more I create surface area, the more I feel that I don't have enough. Stinginess doesn't have to do only with money and something. That's an example what she gives, okay? Look at yourself. Where do you have this feeling of lack of not having something which is enough? So what happens? It's that when we are going around in our world with the feeling that something is missing, something is not enough, there is always a hole within our body, within our energetic body, of course, not necessarily the physical body. So what we want to do is we want to fill it up. Usually what we do when we want to fill it up, that we feel that we need to take it for somebody else. Now come the wisdom. So we take the pride, we take the stinginess, we take the feeling that something is missing, and we want to transform it into a wisdom, right? We are in the working with the emotion, with the five Dhyanis Buddhas. And the wisdom that Ratnasambhava is representing is the wisdom of equanimity. Now, when we are talking about equanimity, something very interesting is happening. I heard many people who speak about equanimity, they think that has to do something with, feeling very, what is the word for that? You know, okay. You don't care about that. You don't care about that. You don't care about that. You are just, you don't care. Everything that happens, you're just, you don't care. This is not equanimity. Equanimity actually is something which is totally different. You have equal sense. That's indifferent. Somebody is saying, yes, indifferent. It's not indifferent, okay? Equanimity is that there is a phrase in the Dzogchen, which is samsara and nirvana are the same. What does it mean that you're indifferent with regard to samsara or nirvana? What happens if something happens to you? I mean, like, if, I don't know, if you broke your leg, are you indifferent for that? No, it hurts. But are you going to go now into the story that you're going to tell yourself. And again, if you go to the grief curve, you go into blaming somebody and getting angry and bargaining and whatever, go through all the stages that we just described before. Or you can look at it and say, oh, I broke my leg. Isn't it different that, I mean, breaking leg and losing recording is not the same, but that's what's happened to us. We lost the recording. That was a glitch. We are not indifferent because when you're indifferent with somebody, so what you want, you don't do anything when you're indifferent. We did a lot. We tried to figure out how we can restore this recording. When you're breaking your leg, you try to figure out how you're gonna heal the leg, right? You're not indifferent, but there is a big difference between being indifferent and being in equanimity. Now, there is the story that I like to tell about was a village. And in this village, there were a few farmers that who lived there. And one day, a very beautiful horse arrived into the village and got into one of the houses of one of the farmers. So his neighbors came to him and said to him, wow, you're so lucky. This horse, where did it come from? You are now have a beautiful horse. So the farmer told me, we'll see. So after a while, the young boy of this farmer started to ride on the horse, and he was riding on that, and then he fell from the horse and broke his leg. So his neighbor came to him and said, oh my God, you had such a bad luck. Your son just broke the leg because of the horse. So the farmer told him, we'll see. After a few weeks, the army got into the village and started to recruit all the people that were qualified to the army. But this young boy broke his leg, so they couldn't take him. So they took the other farmer son, but they didn't took that. And the farmer came to his neighbor and said to him, "Oh, you're so lucky that your son broke the leg." So what I'm trying to say here, and you can develop that as much as you want. What I'm trying to say here, that where is the minute that you stop and saying, I like the situation or I dislike the situation? When is the minute when you're saying that something is happening to us, but what we're doing is that we're trying to react towards something that just happened to us, like the recording, like breaking the leg. We're not indifferent, but we are referring to that in equanimity. Samsara and nirvana are the same. It doesn't feel the same, but they are the same with regard to our reaction, with regard to the disturbing in our mind. Many times when we're trying to explain the equanimity, we are referring to the ocean, okay? You see on the ocean, you see the waves and you see all those storms that coming up, but when you dive in, there is a stillness there. So this describes more the equanimity rather than indifference, okay? I hope that I was able to explain to you because this is not an easy wisdom to explain. So how do I gain this equanimity? Mainly by trying to gain the wisdom of equality. Now, equality doesn't mean that you and I are the same. It doesn't mean that you or I are, I don't know, in the same situation or we have the same life. It means that you and I have the same Buddha nature. So we see the amazing teacher, the amazing guru, what you see with them. Many times we call that compassion, but it's not the compassion. What you see that they are referring to everybody in the same way of respect. It doesn't matter if this guy is a jerk or he's acting out or whatever, or this one is humble and just, very devoted, and that they're referring to them in an equal manner. When you see the Buddha nature in each one of all creatures, not only people, not Homo sapiens, all creatures, when you see that everybody has the Buddha nature, you can start to treat everybody in equal, and that creates the equanimity. So let's go to meditation because we want to work on that this week, right? Okay, so let's go with that. So just sit in a straight back, close your eyes. Oh. Put your attention on the breathing. And since Ratnasambhava has to do with earth, the element is earth, I want you to pay attention to the place where your butt is touching the seat. It can be either a floor, a chair, a cushion. Just pay attention to the place where you feel this touch. Feel the grounding that happens there. You straighten your back. Your shoulders goes a little bit back. There is a stillness that gets in when you pay attention to the place where the butt and the sit place are conjoining together. And now we want to go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. We know that the real refuge is going through a transformation that will create the mind in a more easier way, that suffering will lessen, and maybe we'll get into the point of wisdom, of equanimity. There is no suffering in a phenomenon because everything, samsara and nirvana, are the same with regard to our action and our attitude. So you see yourself now in the mandala. To your left, you see Vairochananda White. It's in the center. Below you, you see Akshobhya the blue. Above you, you see Amitabha the red. And to the other side of the mandala, you see Amoghasiddhi, which is green. And now you describe yourself, you visualize yourself as the Ratnasambhava. You have a beautiful gold color, shining, luminous. And you have your hands in the mudra of what we call generosity mudra, the gesture of generosity. Your right hand is extended downwards. Your palm is facing outward towards the viewer. And the other hand holds the wish granting jewel, which is a vase that filled with a lot of special nectar. And you know that this gesture is representing the transformation of pride, stinginess, feeling of missing into the wisdom of equanimity and equality. So the golden color is representing the enrichment, the generosity, the prosperity, the auspiciousness, and the earth. And what happens now that you want to ask yourself some beautiful question that will transform your mind while paying attention to what is happening in your life. Like, for example, where do I measure myself against others? It can be where, but it also can be on what values, on what characteristics do I measure myself against others? Can I recognize that this automatic comparison is happening and I feel the decrease in my value when I feel that I'm lower, or if I think that I'm higher than this person, I feel pride, I feel proud, I feel good. Or maybe can I sense some kind of an inherent sense of worth without comparison? Or do I have to take the ruler outside of my pocket and compare myself to others on any characteristic? And then I can feel worth. Do I need a comparison to feel worthwhile? Now, what happens to me if I'm facing a situation when I want to give something to somebody? It can be anything. It's not necessarily has to do with money or with objects. It can be even love, some kind of generosity, maybe love, maybe attention, maybe good advice, maybe just listen to somebody, which is also an amazing giving. What happens? Can I give those without feeling that I miss something? Does my generosity comes from feeling of fullness? Or do I do those giving because I have to, I must, I need, I'm expected? Where this generosity comes from? So if I understand that from karmic point of view, if I feel that I miss something, that I don't have enough, that I need to protect something because I feel that I must miss it or somebody might take it from me. From karmic point of view, I have to do it the other way, to act accordingly, the opposite way around, meaning that I have to be very generous. Can I embody it in my life, generosity? And when we hear the word generosity, we always think about money. But can I just pick up the phone and call a friend and say to him, "Good morning. You're so amazing. I love you so much. Bye. Have a good day." Do you think this is generosity? Have you considered that as a generosity? What about compliment to your colleagues at work? You did a great job. Not only to your child because he's your child. Do you consider that as generosity? And how do you feel about how you comfort with giving or with receiving? What about if somebody is coming and telling you some compliment? Oh, that was such an amazing class. How do you feel about that? Do you feel pride or do you feel happy, which is totally different? And where in your life you have this feeling that you don't have enough? Can you recognize those issues that you don't feel that you have enough? This hole in your body, energetic body, that you need to feel that you need, maybe you don't have enough. If you think that you don't have enough money, or maybe you don't have enough love, you don't have enough reputation, you don't have enough respect, you don't have enough friends, you don't have enough rooms, you don't have enough surface space, you don't have enough cars. What do you feel you don't have enough? Oh, maybe I don't have enough realizations because when I am attending Lamalina's Zoom and somebody is describing their realization, what I see is that they are superior than me. I don't have enough realization. I don't have those realizations. Now, the Dharma became something that we take the ruler out of a pocket and we are comparing. So those questions can be a food for thought. And when we try to identify where are we in each one of those characters, feelings, emotions, thoughts, we might want to see them on the cushion. We might want to meet them on a daily basis. But the most important thing is to be aware, to develop mindfulness to those thoughts and feelings and emotions that happens in our life. Because when we start with the awareness, we can always start to do the antidotes. Generosity is one of them. And that's the work of Ratnasambhava. So we want to dedicate this meditation and the fact that we are working on trying to transform our emotions into the wisdom of the Dhyani Buddhas. May all human beings and all creatures will feel the love and equanimity with everybody and on everything. So you can open your eyes now. So before we'll go into a few more minutes with regard to the questions, if you have any questions, I know that this is a subject that basically, this subject is not so easy. Not to understand what does it mean equanimity is not easy, but also try to develop the mindfulness, the awareness about our karmic patterns that has to do with pride, stinginess, lack, all those I wrote you with the in the sadhana, I wrote you a lot of other emotions that you can dive into it. So again, we'll go to the antidote. So the Buddha came and said, okay, what are the vows? What are the commitments that you want to take with regard to transform your mind in order to develop the equanimity, the wisdom of equanimity? So it's very interesting. So the main vow is not to withhold generosity or holy resources. So you know, Lamalina always says that she had a vow never to charge for the Dharma. I also had this vow, so it's always open to everybody. But what happens is that I could see my mind going where I need to pay for the Dharma. Why do I care about that? Anyhow, I'm going to pay anybody the dana. So what does it mean if somebody's charging for the holy dharma or somebody is opening it that and it's me who is doing the generosity? Do you understand the difference? So I remember once I had a discussion with Lamalina about dana, something that has to do with that. And you know what she told me? I said to her, I don't need a dana. And she told me, hey, lady, this is not about you. You need to take care of those who needs to give you the dana. And this is not a dana discussion, guys. Okay? Please. I just want to give you an example how she sees that. Because if you are doing some kind of generosity towards somebody, and it doesn't have to be dana. I just gave you an example like compliments or love or good words or whatever. You are the one from karmic point of view who is collecting this amazing karma, not the object that you're doing the generosity act towards him. And that was a big lesson to me because the fact, and that's why I asked you also in the meditation, do you know how to receive something that somebody is giving you? I didn't, by the way. And that was a very good lesson to me. And it's also go not only, for example, with Dana, because for me, I could see that I don't know how to take a compliment, for example. If somebody is giving me a compliment, I don't know what to do with that. I learned to say, oh, thank you. And to think, this is so amazing that this person is telling me something nice because I'm happy that he's creating the karma. Not about, I'm so good and he gave me a compliment. Do you see the difference between those two energies? because this is the difference between pride, and that's what the generosity is creating. And again, generosity has nothing to do with money. Generosity has to do with an attitude. It's a mind of attitude. What do you want to give? And Benny's going to kill me, but I'm going to do that anyhow. So Benny now has retired. Benny's my husband, if you don't know him. You can see his picture here, but you can see him here. Okay. So many of you have met him in Europe that when we were traveling with La Malina. But he just retired. But he was working in the high-tech companies for many, many, many years. And after a lot of, working in this way or that way, eventually he woke up one morning, and he's also a Dharma practitioner. And he woke up one morning and he said, I'm going to change my attitude. And my attitude going to be that I'm going to be very generous to all the people in the company. It can be my boss, it can be my colleagues, it can be my employees. So what I'm going to do, I'm going every morning and see how I'm going to help them to succeed. Do you see how generous this mindset creates? When you go to work and you look around and you find out, to whom am I going to help today to succeed in his job? Do you consider that as generosity? Have you thought about it? So generosity has nothing to do with money because that's what we think. I hope you're going to let me sleep with you tonight. Okay, we'll open that to question, and you're not allowed to ask the question. Hi, Richard. So good to see you.
Hello.
Oh, I
Yes.
can hardly hear you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, first of all, thank you for this class. It's so awesome. It's so weird. It's like I feel like, after studying the Dharma for like 12 years, and doing all these practices and doing all these book studies with the Sangha, when, we never got into this. And this is the reason why I came to Buddhism in the first place, to deal with as we call them, character defects. So anyway, I have a question about last week's assignment, when we were doing the anger, Um, First of all, I want to know, can you explain a little bit more about the transformation process? And like you said, that there's no action involved. And also, like, how do we know when it is transformed? Does that mean that the anger goes away, or maybe it never comes back? I don't know about what that means. And also, I realized that while doing this, that a lot of times it comes up what you said about my belief system is being attacked. And I want to maybe see if we could discuss that a little bit, if that's not too much.
Okay, so what you, oh, okay. Okay, and we had an echo. So what do you ask me? You ask me so many questions. Each one of them is a subject for the whole class. But I want to answer again in a short, what does it mean, the transformation? In Tantra, the transformation takes place unconsciously, meaning that all of a sudden, for example, you stop feeling that I don't have enough, for example, if we take this, or all of a sudden you see that something that made you angry in the past, you see the same situation, but you're not angry anymore. But that happens not because you did something in order to stop the anger, for example, okay? But if you follow the vows, like we did now, we went through that and we did that also with the anger, you don't know why acting in this manner will create something in the future. Remember, karma always has a gap. in between the moment I put the seed into the in ground and until it's rise up and ripen into a tree or a flower or whatever, that takes time. The gap, we forget about the gap. We think that when we will be doing something now, the action will take place now. That will create a result now. That never happens with karma. So
Hmm.
when we work with in tantra in the manner of transforming or acting, we don't see the results right away. So that has to do with the transformation. If you're expecting that if I'm doing something now, that will happen eventually, right away, no, that will happen eventually. Okay, it will not happen right away. So we have to be patient when we work with karma. And you don't know when it's going to happen, and you don't know how it's going to manifest. We don't know. Okay, there are ways to know that because when you dive into studying hardcore karma, it's chapter 5 in the Abhidhamma Kosha, when you dive there, the Buddha gave a lot of explanation with that, okay? But we're not doing that. I know only two teachers, maybe, I don't know enough teachers, but I know only two teachers who dived into how karma works very deeply, okay? So maybe one day I'll do this course because I studied that and I taught that many, many years, again and again, how karma works. That was a very elaborated course. But again, this is a very academic one and less life. So I don't want to do that now. Now, with regard to the other question that you asked, with regard to that has to what I answered now has to do with how transformation works and how can we see the results. Okay. Now, with regard to, I would say, from point of view of life, okay, which that's what I care, okay? I care about how we are going to change our life. Because eventually, when the Buddha developed the wisdom of equanimity, if something, I mean, he was, I don't know, fasting for many days, I don't know, 30 days or something. Fasting for 40 days, it's not easy, right? Maybe more. I don't remember how many years, months or whatever. So, but his attitude towards it was totally different. And that's what we want to make to happen, that will happen to us. We cannot, we will not we cannot stop ourselves from dying, okay? For example, we cannot stop ourselves from aging, from getting sick. We cannot. Even the Dalai Lama, when you look at him, he's now more than 90 years old. He got older, okay? So, and he's a Buddha on earth. So if this is what people comes to think when they come to Buddhism, that they will not die, that will not happen. And that life will be lovey-dovey, that will not happen. It's how we live our life. Because if we don't have those disturbing emotions anymore in the level that we had, we might even get into the phase of enlightenment, which meaning samsara and nirvana are the same. Not because if I broke my leg, this is, such an enjoyment. No, it's because it doesn't create the suffering that it created in the past when my mind was so disturbing. Do you understand? It's still going to hurt.
Yeah.
It's still going to hurt. And I'll still have to go to the doctor. And I'll still have to put some cast on that. But my attitude towards it will be totally different. Okay? So, and I think that we'll have other questions, answer maybe more of your questions in the future. Thank you for sharing
Thank you.
that. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Andre, yes. We'll have two more questions because we're running out of time. And if somebody needs to leave, please go. I don't want to hold you guys. Yes,
Hello,
Andre.
nice to meet you and thank you for this course. I wanted to ask if you can talk about the relationship between Vajra pride, Lagi Nagyal, from a tantric perspective, and this wisdom of equanimity. How can we cultivate that in
Mm,
relationship with this wisdom? That
yeah.
is my question.
Yeah, this is an amazing question because we are discussing in a Tantra group. I'm not sure that each one of you know what does it mean, Nagiel. Nagiel, sometimes translated as divine pride, okay? And as a Tantrikas, we are supposed to walk around in the world with divine pride. So we just discussed this, want to transform the pride into wisdom of equanimity, right? So how that goes together? This is an amazing question for Tantrikas, since all of you are Tantrikas. So I'll answer that, but in a short way. Actually, the translation is incorrect. It's not divine pride. It has nothing to do with pride. What does it mean? If I'll have a better translation for that, it's a divine worth. Now, pride and worth has nothing, it's not the same. When we are practicing the sadhana, the generation stage of the sadhana, you remember there are two phases in Tantra. The generation stage that we're trying to generate ourselves. That's what the sadhana that I give you every week. We're trying to generate ourselves as this Buddha or the Yidam that we are practicing. So I think I answered that a few weeks ago. What happens if I feel worthless? Can a Buddha feel worthless? No. So we don't want to emphasize our afflicted emotions. We want to feel worth. Now, worth doesn't mean more than somebody else. Do you remember that, right? We don't feel pride. We don't feel that somebody else is more than us. We don't do the comparison. That's why the pride is not the right word. But we're going around in the world having the capabilities to help each one and every creature in the world. Can you imagine yourself going around in the world having this amazing capability to help everyone? That's what the Buddha does. He doesn't have the mighty powers because otherwise we were all being enlightened because he would just touch us, right? But he has the knowledge how to help us to transform, to make the transformation, because he cannot transform our karma. He can teach us how we can transform our karma, which is totally different. So just imagine to yourself that you have this capability to help everyone to transform themselves into Buddhas. Do you feel worthwhile? Do you feel happy about that? That's a divine worth. That's a divine happiness. It has nothing to do with pride. I'm very sorry for the Nagyel. This is the Tibetan term, Nagyel, that people are translating that into divine pride, because it has nothing to do with what we call pride with regard to the Westerner attitude. So I hope I answered your questions.
Yes, thank you.
Viviana.
Thank you very much, Lopondorit, and thank you for your teachings. My question is practical in the sense that I had these opportunities that I don't know if showed up as crazy this last week, or I generated them, or I was aware of them, but I had tons of opportunities to practice anger. And in the moment, do I do something in the moment besides just feeling it and not responding and then doing the practice on the cushion? Or there is a step that is missing because I felt this kind of contraction, contentment of not reacting as ever have happened to me.
Yeah. Well, good luck. And you're very lucky that you had a lot of opportunity to practice this week. And actually, I want to congratulate you, not about the opportunity, because they were last week as well, and the week before, and the week before, but the awareness was there. And I want to congratulate you on the awareness, on the development of the awareness. I think that was in one of the classes, which I don't remember, in the psychology of Tantra, that I gave you the metaphor that I usually give to my patients when we work on something. First, we want to identify our patterns. Okay, let's say anger is one of my patterns, or stinginess. Okay, let's say that we are working with Ratna, or going around in the world with pride, or worthless, which is the other side of the pride, which is pride. Okay, so let's say that I have this tendency. I have those patterns in my life. What I usually give as a metaphor is I want you to remember, I don't know if you remember, you look young, but there was once upon a time, there was a vinyl records, right? The black vinyl records, right? In order to create music on that, there was some kind of pressure that was made and create some kind of roads on the circles on the vinyl. And that's when you put the needle on that. Let's create a song. We all have the same songs. So when I see something happens to me, like for example, if I feel that my colleagues, I'm going to write my sambhava, okay? If I'm sitting in the meeting room and there is a presentation of one of my colleagues, and he or she are giving a beautiful presentation, how do I feel? Do I take the ruler off of my pocket and just compare myself to him or to her? And I said, oh my, and I feel bad because I feel they're better than I. So do you remember? Whoop, I just discrete my value. What will happen? What will happen? Immediately, there is a song like in the vinyl record, the needle goes into the song, and there is a song now starting to run in my mind. He or she, they are stupid, they are not so good, they stole the presentation, they use the AI. I don't know what kind of song you will sing a song in your mind, okay? And that will create the feeling. Those thoughts will create a feeling. Now, what I'm doing now with you guys, the first stage is to recognize the song. And then recognizing the song is taking the needle up from the song. Now, what happens when you take the needle up from the song, from the record? The song stops, right? The record cannot continue when the needle is there. But what happened is that our habits create this, the needle will go again and again and again and again. So if you will be aware again and again and again and again, you will take up the needle from the song, and then eventually the song will stop. Now we have a problem, because the problem is that if we don't have an alternative song, the needle will go back again to the old habitual song. So we have to create a new song. Like, for example, if I could see now that my jealousy, which will go with Amogosidi, okay, when we'll go to the green with Amogosidi, but when I could see now that I felt worthless, which is the other side of the pride, or the other way around. I gave a very good presentation. I'm better than everybody here in the room. So if I'm creating the awareness and taking the needle up, and then I have a song that says, be generous. This is the new song. So the needle goes to the song, be generous. Otherwise, it will go back. So I have to create, and that's what the Buddha gave us. The vows, the commitments are the new songs. Okay? So I hope that everybody will take this metaphor and when you create the awareness and the needle goes up from the old songs, which is the habits and the thoughts and the, whatever was, sometimes you can hear your mother or your father voice, you're not, you're worthless, you don't do, and then you have a new song with regard to your pattern. Like, for example, anger. What was the vows that has to do with anger, right? Now we're going into the pride or stinginess or lack of or whatever. What are the songs? What are the vows? I didn't go with you about the vows, but we will receive them with the sadhana in the mail. It's to practice generosity of Dharma, for example. Do you know how to practice generosity of Dharma? Because Dharma is something that will help everybody, right? You become a Buddha if you practice the generosity of Dharma. Teach Dharma if you can. If you can't teach Dharma, help somebody else to receive teachings of Dharma. I love, guys, when you put on the um, WhatsApp group, when you share, that this empowerment is happening or this teaching is happening. I'm happy about that because I don't know if the guy or the lady who is putting this knows that he or she just acted generosity. Do you understand? Because they want to share the Dharma. Is there somebody else who can transform our mind rather than Dharma? No. Wow, great. Well, I don't like when you start to do the chatting, oh, I go, I don't go. That's good. They'll do it privately. But if you want to share this information, that's amazing. Or support somebody. Support, like Lamalina's project, for example, to support the yogis and yoginis in the caves. If you support somebody with such a small amount, you support and practice the Dharma. This is generosity. And as always, when you plant a small seeds, it will create a big tree. That's how karma works. So create an awareness, try to put up the needle, and try to put the needle on a new song. That's how transformations is taking place. Okay.
Thank you very much, Honor.
So we will dedicate that because dedication, by the way, is the most generous act. Do you know why? I don't want to keep those amazing things that I'm doing now. I'm dedicating that to all people in the world. I'm taking my holy water and put them in the ocean. If I'll keep them in my room, do you know what will happen to them? They will dry out. They will never dry out in the ocean. That's generosity of dedication. Do dedication 10 times a day, 20 times a day on everything that you have. Everything that you're doing, and it's an act of generosity, do dedication. You don't have to do the whole prayer. You say, oh, I just want to dedicate that for the benefit of all beings. In your mind, you just dedicate that. You just gave this merit, this gewa, into the world. And that's what we did now. Thank you, guys. We'll send you hopefully the recording of the meditation and the sadhana of Ratnasambhava. And this is the week of Ratnasambhava. This is the week of generosity. Be generous in everything. Love, attention, compliments, whatever. Be generous. Bye, guys.